mislim, kako da kažem, slične ljudima. To su ta deca neba iz Biblije, Svetog pisma, koja su sa čovečicama, znači ljudskim ženama imale decu. Ta njihova deca su divovi. I sad imali su razne ima Rafael, Amoriti i tako dalje. Samo da navede jednog čovjeka, on je dokazao da su oni postali. Nosio u laboratoriju, znači zove se Klaus Dona Vaca.
Za šta, za divove ili
za... Da.
Priča se da se uništavaju tragovi divova.
Da, naravno, ali nisu svi uništeni. On se bavi arheološkim istraživanjem, provjeravanjem znači, tih prepotovskih civilizacija, svega što može da nađe. Sad je, kaže, navodno, trenutno u Indoneziji. On je iz Austrije. Ima ogromnu kolekciju svih tih pronađenih predmeta. Kada je bio u Južnoj Americi, nešto su oni iskopavali, odronilo se deo planine. I vidjeli su neke delove koje liči na kosti. I sad šta će, neće da baci čovjek. Uzeo je, ima vidjet će to u mojoj knjizi. Oni uzeli te delove, a ispostavilo se to kosti oko sinus, znači lobanja. Znači ovdje, neki delovi oko kostiju kuka, neki delovi oko kičmenih pršljiva. Ne znam sad četvrti šta je bio. I on je, da provjeri da li su to kosti, odveo je u laboratorije svetske poslove svojim prijateljima. Mnogi se zanimaju, hoće da provjeri autentičnost događaja i šta se dešava. Stvarno ljudi hoće da znaju. I treba. I poslao im je te kosti, to su bili ogromni predmeti, razumete ovako. Možete zamisliti sinus i ovoliki. Ali kaže, došlo je do, baš što je stari nalaz, došlo je do pretvaranja u kamen, pa ne mogu dezoksiribonukleisku kiselinu da izvuku. Ali gledali su pod rengenom, to jesu kosti. Gledali su oblik i zaključak je bio. Sve te kosti po obliku, definitivno iz mnogih laboratorija, apsolutno jasno predstavljaju kosti čoveka. Tačno su rekli u kojem mjestu. Međutim, pazite sad ovaj pseudo zaključak. Međutim, pošto nema ljudi visokih 7,5 metara, to nisu ljudske kosti. Čije su? Oni danas ima to uopšte, prikazivo je ove fotografije i drži u svojoj kolekciji. Znači, dokazano za 7,5 metara. Kad sam spomenuo ovaj dio, nisu tu svi podaci tačni. Recimo, Miroljub Petrović je u filmu Dan kada su nestali divovi. Ja sam to odmah dodao u njegove podatke, pošto sam jako mnogo uzeo podatak raznih knjiga. O tome nije naveo tačan podatak. Nekog ga je žestoko prevario. Rekao je ovako. Veliki rabin jevrejski Johanan ben Zakaj je pozvao, znači, cara Hadrijana 135. godine, kad su bio ustanak ugušen u Jerusalemu. Bar Kohba je bio Simeon Bar Kosivah, to je sin zvezde, sin laži. Jer on je bio sin kao zvezde Davidove, a sin laži, on je bio, predstavljao se kao Mesija, a Mesija je Isus. I oni su poraženi, to je bilo 132. do 135. ustanak. I kao on je rekao, Johanan ben Zakaj je pozvao cara, znači Publija Elija Hadrijana, u jednu pećinu da mu pokaže grobove Amorita, Diola, koji su bili visoki 8-9 metara. Znači, uopšte ne negirano da nisu postak, nego on govori netačnu činjenicu. Rekao mu je, care, ne hvali se tom pobedom, da nije nebeska volja bila takva, ti bi bio poražen, mi bi bili pobednici. Rekao mu još, kada smo bili verni Gospodu, pobeđivali smo i takve ljude, sad kada smo u neverni odstupili, mislim, prevodi su u tom smislu, ti si nas pobedio. Sad, ja sam odmah otišao na te jevrejske sajtove, oni su pisali na engleskom. Da provjerim Johanan ben Zakaj, kad je on živio, pošto je to bilo 135. godine. Taj čovjek je rođen 30. godine pre nove ere. Živio je 120 godina, umre 90. godine. Što znači? Da je on navodio da je taj isti koji je umro 45 godina ranije bio razgovarao sa carom Hadrijom. 98. godine je tek došao na vlast Trajan, koji je usvojio za sina Hadrijana samrti. A ovaj umro 90. godine, razumete?
To jeste greška u...
Da, govorim da to nisu tačno.
Me one of the most interesting research field. So I would like to start with the first picture. I was 2 months ago, I was in South Africa together with Michael Tellinger, and he brought me out to a very strange place on the countryside, and we could visit this giant footprint. This footprint is 130 centimeters, and this giant human must have been the size of about 7 to 7.5 meters, and the weight should have been about 1.6 tons. You can see here the close-up of the giant print, and you can see exactly if you walk into a weak mud with your teeth, you push out automatically the mud. And you see here that this is really a human footstep, but everybody who is contrary against it would say why it is showing up and not flat on the bottom. And Michael and myself, we checked the area around, and you can see here the giant footprint, and this plate is also granite, but there must have been a very big earthquake or a movement of the earth, and this big stone plate on the right side must have moved up the other stone formation with this giant footprint. On this photo, you can see bones which I found in Ecuador, in the south of Ecuador, in the province Loja, where 1964, Father Carlos Vaca, a priest, was called by the indigenous in a small town because there was a heavy storm overnight and a part of a mountain breakdown of a platform, and many bones, broken bones, were shown up. Padre Carlos Vaca was working many years in hospitals, and they called him if he can tell them what this might be. So he visited the place and he checked the bones, and he identified many of the bones as human bones, but after researching everything, the size of this human skeleton must have had the size of 7.6 meters. You can see the papers on each bone. That's the handwriting of Father Carlos Vaca, and he also called some experts, and they also proved that these bones are skeleton bones of a giant human. The bones must be very old, because on this photo you can see a part of the skull plate, and you can see the crystallization on this bone. So that means this skeleton is really very, very old. I met the family of Father Carlos Vaca because it took me about 3-4 years until I found out where he lived in the province Loja. So when I went there, I got the sad information that exactly 1 month ago he passed away. But I could make contact with his family, his brother's family, and they kept all the bones, and they allowed me to bring some of these bones to Vienna to do some further research on them. So on this picture, you can see one definitely identified human bone. It's a part of the heel bone. This is a side picture of this heel bone. When I had it in Vienna, I asked the professor of anatomy from the University of Vienna if he can do me a check on these bones. And he checked several of them, and finally he said, it's incredible. They look like human bones, but it might not be possible because they are at least 5 times bigger. So next day he called me again, and he said if I would have time for him. So he came with the original human bones, exactly the same, and he did comparison, and he also said it's impossible, but they look like human bones, and I'm quite sure they are human bones because we had several other checks and the result was always the same. We found in old documents in South America, in Quito, informations from Chiesa de Leon. He was historian for the conquistadors in the 16th century, and in one of his reports he wrote, today we found on the coast of Esmeraldas several human skeletons, but they were 5 times bigger than we. So if you think that a normal person at that time had the size of about 150, 160 centimeters, 5 times would be exactly 7.5, 7.6 meters. The next photo shows part of the nose bone, and the next one is a so-called os occipitale, which we have left side, right side under the skull, which makes us able to move the skull around. As Michael said yesterday, he never got in touch with the real old giant human bones. I asked him today, I would be very happy if he could visit me in Vienna and check the bones, because his opinion would be very important.